Hello, hello, hello. Another episode of MITZ TV by Best of San Diego, a mitzvah event specialist association. Today's show is all about tasty libations. We have snake oil cocktail in the house, and they're going to show us how to make a smash at your next event.
Hi there. Hello to everybody out there in the BESA community. Thank you for having us on board to present for you and be a part of the presentation today. My name is Frankie. I'm the Director of Mixology with Snake Oil Cocktail Company, a beverage caterer in San Diego for the last 10 years with all types of events. And I'm here at Julep Venue, where this is our crown venue that we have right now, which we launched last year. And we'll be opening soon to do all sorts of types of events, from weddings, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, corporate events, family events, anything that you can think of. We can hold about 750 people here at Julep Venue. Something that we've been doing that's kind of unique right now, especially in the current climate, is we're doing something called Virtual Barstool. And Virtual Barstool is an opportunity to have kind of a live mixologist in your corporate Zoom meeting, or perhaps a small gathering at home, and you want to have a mixologist there to help you create some fun cocktails, teach you some history, and learn some lore about cocktails. You could check that actually out on our website at snakeoilcocktail.com. You will find one of the scroll downs for Virtual Barstool. So hopefully we'll get to see you in one of those soon. Now, I wanted to talk today about a certain type of cocktail that I love, especially during the spring and summer months when it's a little bit warmer and there's so much fresh produce in the garden. I can't wait to get behind the bar and make some delicious cocktails. So I'm here right now at Julep Cafe in our beautiful bar here, and I'm going to go ahead and make a version of a smash. Now, the concept of a smash, if you think about the name, is that we're taking a bunch of ingredients and we're smashing them all together. Now, you could do this in any number of ways. Perhaps at home, you just have a bar spoon, or you might have a muddler, or perhaps you have just a long fork or something like that. So you could do your own muddling at home with or without the right devices. And some of the other devices that we have, I'll teach you how to improvise with jiggers and improvise with shakers and strainers and such. So a smash is like it sounds. It's a bunch of stuff smashed together. The original concept was put down in a book in 1862 by Jerry Thomas, a very famous bartender, who at the time was experimenting with cocktails of different styles, and not just so much in the standard old-fashioned variations, but rather being kind of a visionary into the cocktails of the future. And so this is kind of taking a whiskey sour and a mint julep and smashing them together. You get the sweetness, you've got some kind of an herb, and you've got some citrus juice and the spirit. So for our purposes today, we're going to go ahead and make a bourbon smash. So a bourbon smash essentially is going to be made with our choice of whiskey today being bourbon. Now, whiskey itself has kind of an interesting heritage, which I'd love to go into, but it's a very long tale. So I'm mostly just going to talk a little bit about bourbon and how bourbon happened. Now, this has to go back a little bit further to the original settlers coming over here and migrating from, say, Scotland and Ireland. They brought distilling with them, they brought farming with them, and in the northern area of where basically the 13 colonies in New England and inland from there, the big bumper crop was rye. And we were using rye to make all sorts of things like beers and breads. So what happens when a farmer has a huge bumper crop and at the end of the year can't sell off their grain, they could store it in the silo and let it rot, or they can use that to mash and then distill. So they basically were distilling whiskeys that were comprised of around 51 or more percent rye grain, with other grains such as wheat and corn and oats to be part of that blend. So ryes tend to be a little leaner and spicier than bourbon. Now, bourbon kind of came onto the scene a little bit later, but one thing that really wedged bourbon in had to do with the early 1900s. Now let's start with bourbon. Mostly comes from Bourbon County, Kentucky, although now you can make bourbon anywhere else in the United States. So you'll see bourbon coming out of Colorado, bourbon's coming out of California. The idea is that it has to be made under a strict set of rules. So it's not a protected designation in Bourbon County, but the main thing is that the bumper crop in that particular part of the world was corn. And because of that, the whiskeys were styled to be 51% or more corn with other grains in the mash. Now, usually these are riding at least 70% on the corn spectrum, but that's going to lend a little bit of a sweeter and rounder quality to the whiskey. So hence we have our bourbon. Now, what really caused bourbon to surge was in the early 1900s, when World War I came about. The government actually subsidized corn production so that we could feed our troops as they were fighting World War I. And because of that, bourbon started, or the corn growers were creating lots of corn, and so they were making more bourbon. And then when Prohibition hit, rye basically was wiped off the map, but bourbon had actually established itself as medicinal. And so if you had a prescription, you could walk into a Walgreens and get some medicinal bourbon. Super random, right? So all of the cocktails, a lot of the cocktails during the Prohibition era were bourbon based because that's what people could get their hands on. I always find these kind of fun things fascinating. Hope you do too. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the ingredients we're using. As I mentioned, we've got the bourbon. I'm using Maker's Mark. This is a little bit of a high proof bourbon. It rides a little bit higher because I want you to really be able to taste the bourbon amidst all the other fresh ingredients. We do have some fresh blackberries, some fresh garden basil, some fresh lime or lemon juice. And now I've gone ahead and actually squeezed this a little bit ahead of time. Living your citrus a little bit of time will actually oxidize it slightly and bring out some of the floral notes and reduce the acidity. I've also got a basic simple syrup, which you're going to make using 50-50 hot water and sugar and stirring until the sugar dissolves. You could choose any type of sugar that you want. If you prefer to be a little healthier, maybe you can use some raw sugar, but it's going to lend a little bit of a molasses character to the simple syrup, which is great for tiki cocktails. For the smashes, I prefer to use a refined sugar or something that's had a little bit of processing so that's a little bit cleaner and lighter. You can see mine's very clear. And essentially, this is going to act as a counterbalance to my acidity. So I've got my acidity and I've got my sweetener. If you prefer to use agave nectar for this cocktail, you absolutely can. The only difference is you would have to get some agave and you would use the same parts. So that makes it really easy to consider. Okay, let's go ahead and start making our smash. Why don't we, right? Now, you're going to need some kind of a glass or container that you're going to be able to mash this up in. You're also going to need a glass to serve it in. I'm going to serve it in a double old fashioned. Most of you have something like this at home. It's a 13 or 14 ounce glass. First things first, we're going to go ahead and grab our blackberries. I'm going to go ahead and do about 6 blackberries. You can kind of, you can vary that based on your flavor preferences. Also, you could do this with strawberries, blueberries, any type of really mashable fruit. So I'm going to go ahead and smash up my blackberries. And I really want to get all the juice out of them. So I'm almost creating a paste or trying to liquefy them. The next ingredient I'm going to go ahead and add is going to be some fresh basil. Now, the freshness of your herbs is paramount. If you don't have your own herb garden, which most of us don't, but if you do, you're one of the lucky ones. But if you don't, you can easily pick up some fresh herbs either at a local a local garden, or perhaps at your grocery store will have some live fresh herbs. Now go ahead and take that basil. I'm taking about 6 leaves, and these are of average size. Now, if you had small basil or large basil leaves, then you would adjust that number depending. Now, what I want to do with the basil is basically just wake it up. I don't necessarily want to over muddle it. That'll bring out some of the chlorophyll and the bitter tannic notes that you get from vegetation. I just really want to bring out the basil oil. So I'm just going to lightly tamp it a few times until I can smell the basil coming out of the glass or canister. That smells great. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is add our whiskey. Now, I'm going to add 1.5 ounces, which is a pretty standard shot. If you really like to taste your whiskey, you can go up to 2 ounces. That's okay. But maybe try it this way first and see what your preferences are. This way I can really taste all of the other ingredients still, and it becomes a much more balanced cocktail. If you don't have a jigger at home, you can use tablespoons. That would have been 3 tablespoons. 1 tablespoon is equal to ½ an ounce. The next thing we're going to go ahead and add is some citrus. We're adding lemon, and we're going to go ahead and do 3/4 of an ounce, or a tablespoon and a half. All right. And then we're going to go ahead and add our citrus, or our sugar. We're going to add simple syrup. I'm going to do a full ounce of simple syrup because lemon does have a lot of acidity, and that'll be a nice counteraction. Balance the cocktail out really well. Now, something to note, if you prefer not to have something to drink alcoholic, this could be made all the same, but instead of whiskey, let's substitute some club soda. You're going to get those fun, fresh ingredients and have it be kind of light and fizzy. But this is great if you wanted to do something like this with, say, children or teenagers and wanted to make it a more fun, involved experiences on making mocktails, which I really enjoy. Or maybe you just want to stay away from the alcohol altogether. Either way. Okay, so let's go ahead. Now we've got all of our ingredients in our tin. I'm going to add ice to my glass. Okay, once we've gone ahead and done that, we need to add ice to our cocktail canister. Now, if you don't have a shaker at home, you can go ahead and just stir this in a glass and try to stir it as best you can. We're really trying to achieve 3 things here. We're trying to chill the cocktail, to mix it, and dilute it. And you can achieve that in a couple different ways. It definitely helps you have something to shake it in, though, because you'll get a little bit of extra pounding on the ingredients inside to bring and extract out some of those flavors. I'm only going to shake for about 13 seconds. There's no right shake. The idea is you just want to get into a safe motion. I always try to put my pinky on the bottom so this doesn't go flying anywhere. And I'm going to shake for about 13 seconds. Wonderful. The next thing I'm going to do is use my Hawthorne strainer. If you don't have a Hawthorne strainer, you might have a tea strainer or something equivalent. The idea is I'm trying to hold back a lot of the little bits of blackberry seeds and basil pulp. Now, if you enjoy that being in your cocktail, by all means, just go ahead and add it in and don't worry about the strainer. But if you have one of these at home, the spring acts as a filter and will hold those things back. I'm going to go ahead and pour our cocktail out. Now, because there's those other ingredients in there, you might need to shake it a little bit to get past it all. And shake your glass to level things out just a touch. And every once in a while, you might decide to add a couple more ice cubes just to bring it up closer to the top. The next thing we need to do is add garnish. Now, I've always feel that garnish has to somehow mirror the cocktail in some fashion. I'm going to go ahead and look at the color here. It's a beautiful purple. I think adding some bright green basil would be a really nice contrast. So let's go ahead and put that in our cocktail. And actually, pardon me, before we do that, let's just slap it a little bit, wake it up, bring some of those oils out, and then you'll be able to really smell it right when you go for it. So here we are. Got our fantastic blackberry whiskey smash. So I hope that you enjoy the cocktail. I hope you try to make some of these variations at home. You know, as I mentioned with the berries, you could substitute basil with tarragon or fresh mint, all sorts of fun that you can have, and try different experiments with different combinations and see what you like. And then next thing, come here by Julep and we can have a cocktail together and you can tell me what you think. All right. Well, thank you so much, Bessa. And everybody else, take care of yourselves, and we hope to see you again soon. Drink well.
So good. I love this drink so much because you have it's so different to add the basil in there because you don't think of that often in a cocktail.
Awesome. I think about it all the time.
Oh, see, one of the things too that I love the pointer that you gave out there about don't over smash because it turns it bitter. So, and I think that's something that people, they just want to just grind in there, and just because of the whole getting it in their teeth and all that kind of thing. So
yeah, I think that's one thing that really ruined the mojito back in the 80s when it really became a recurring drink order, is that the bartenders didn't know how to make it proper, and they would over muddle and sometimes put the stems from the mint in, and then you just got all this chlorophyll and bitterness. And really, you just want that basic essential oil to come out into the cocktail.
Such a good tip. I actually had that like here because when I was watching that, I'm like thinking, Is mint like, is that, can you over smash the mint? So apparently you can.
So,
So
yeah, anything green that has chlorophyll in it, So if any herbs that you're using, whether it be tarragon, when you get into the drier herbs, you'll get more tannic, like rosemary and thyme. The more you muddle them, they'll become very tannic in taste.
oh, see, this is like I'm learning something new every day. This quarantine has upped my cocktail game for sure. So, Frankie, I just have a couple questions here. So you guys mentioned your virtual bar stool.
Yeah.
It's over there. I know it's on your website right now. And can you explain that a little bit more? Like, how does the group get what they need? Is that something that you guys provide?
Yeah. So, yeah, let me wax on that a little bit for you. So basically, the virtual bar stool concept is the idea is that you're sitting at the bar is how we want you to feel. But we're obviously doing this with social distancing. So we're doing it over platforms like Zoom, where we can get a group together and then have the focus be on the mixology. And what we can do is send out bar kits with ingredients and tools to everybody that's participating. And we've been doing this, and we're sending stuff out all the way across the US. And we're actually about to experiment doing that overseas as well. So the idea is people can get a kit that's got everything in it. They might just need to supply the alcohol and a thirsty mouth.
That's awesome. So everybody, it's a sense of community, even though you guys are all separated out, and everybody's drinking the same thing. So
yeah, and then everyone can comment and ask questions afterwards. So it feels very interactive.
Nice. Is it like an hour-long kind of a thing, and is it done through Zoom?
Yeah, so we're doing different variations. We're doing kind of a minimum is 30 minutes, and then it can go up to an hour. We can really customize, though, if we want to skip the history lessons and really just focus on a cocktail. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's part of like a gala presentation or something where we're just really focusing. Like we can really customize that. So once you reach out to us, we'll have one of our salespeople kind of talk you through the different options. But I mean, it can really be from 10 minutes to a maximum pretty much an hour. At that point, everyone's had a couple cocktails and they're ready to continue with their night.
That's so fun. And so you can just come in as like a guest on somebody's Zoom call and hook them up with a cocktail and then exit on out. So I love this. And so I'm also seeing too that you guys have on your website, you guys are doing some take-home options right now.
Yeah, so we've really, one thing people have asked us over the last 10 years is, where can I get your cocktail mix? And our response has always been at a snake oil event. And I think it's one thing that we've just maybe overlooked or didn't realize, that people really might actually just want our mixes. And so this was something that we put into a beta earlier when COVID happened, was to just start selling our mixes online. And, the response was overwhelming. And so we've now gone into a full bottling platform with fresh cocktails. And we have a market platform where you can also buy the supporting spirits to go with those, but you can buy the mix in either a 15 ounce or a 30 ounce bottle and be able to have enough cocktails to get through the weekend, or, just a daily celebration, depending on what you're doing. And we're working on a delivery option right now. We're focusing mostly on pickup from our venue at Julep, which is really centrally located.
That's amazing. I love that. And I'm seeing like there's like some really nice high-end bottles on there, so like I'm seeing like Casamigos on there, and I'm seeing the price, and I'm like, okay, so that's where we order this from now on. So like that's so wonderful. So just going through this today, so you guys are doing this extra education. That was another layer that you guys offered into here too. So it's not just here's your blackberries and make a drink. It's been really, really great. It's been fun on there. So
thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and thank you so much today for joining us for another episode of MITZ TV. This has been so much fun. I always love when snake oil's in the house, because I know that this evening I'm going to have the best cocktail again. So thank you so much.
That's kind, Angela. Thank you.
Absolutely. So if you guys are looking for snake oil, you guys can see them on the ticker down below. You guys can also find them on the bestofsandiego.com website. You guys can find their vendor page there, and you guys can get a hold of Frankie and the rest of the crew over there at Snake Oil. And then also don't forget about their new venue, Julep, and it's a really, really great space. It's actually really big. And so you guys want to make sure that you guys take a little tour of that when you guys can in the future. So thank you so much, Frankie. And we appreciate this joining us again today. So this
Likewise.
Absolutely. This has been another episode of MITZ TV. Thanks so much.